Let me be your leader. I feel guilty. Yes, inside.
So I think part of the Civilized Luzhou campaign is taking care of the planet. And I don't know, they didn't have specifics. But there's now like recycling bins outside of our apartment complex, which confused me because are we supposed to, there's not enough space for like the whole apartment complex to put their stuff in it. But I did a lesson a few years ago about recycling, and my teacher helper, we talked about it like ahead of time, and she's like, I don't really know what you recycle. I don't really recycle. And I take it on faith that we're recycling. We put all our stuff, we don't sort our own trash, but we put it all out in the hallway, and a little fairy picks it up and sorts it, I guess. There was an article in the New York Times Magazine in like 1997 that was the case against recycling. And it was basically an economic argument, as a lot of American arguments are. Which I kind of feel like if it's not cost efficient to do this good thing for the world, maybe we should figure out something. And things have changed since 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Oh my God, how old am I? Things have changed. And technology has changed, and we're able to recycle more and different stuff. But it is still the case, like there's stuff that is cost effective to recycle, and there's stuff that is cost effective to throw out and make new. So recycling can't be like the answer to saving the planet. I think about it a lot. I've been trying to buy less stuff that has to be shipped abroad, which means like less import food for us, but we're okay with that. And like instead I'm growing herbs, which I guess the seeds maybe initially had to be shipped abroad, but now it's more efficient. Now we have basil and mint. We don't have to like go buy it. It's grown in our house. I don't think I'm gonna start the composting yet, because that just seems, it's a level of difficulty above what I'm already doing. I'm not ready for it. But I do think about like, we throw away, now that we cook at home, which is good because we don't have all the plastic containers, but we have all this vegetable mass that could go in a compost that could feed my basil plant. And I think a lot about like how to consume responsibly. It's really complicated because you have to like, I don't know the provenance of all my agreements, all my ingredients. And I also like, on a similar related note, I don't know the labor practices of every company I buy from. I guess they're not great. I try not to buy from Amazon at all anymore, but that's also motivated by a personal grudge that I won't get into as much as like I think they treat their employees terribly, even before the coronavirus. But what I'm talking about is consumption, because it's not, I deserve to be on Earth, and I deserve to have clean water and feed myself and have clothes. So consumption in itself isn't immoral, but how to ethically consume is tough. And I guess that's where recycling has the easy answer. If it was like, oh, it doesn't matter, we'll just recycle it all, then we'd all be off the hook. We could buy whatever, and we could buy however much of whatever. But it's not as simple as just don't buy stuff. Because there is, like when towns go plastic free, they find like there's a lot of issues in like plastic is very convenient. And even putting aside, there there was a study like, actually, if you reuse a plastic bag once, putting litter aside, the manufacture of plastic bags is actually better for the planet than the manufacturer of like those canvas totes. Making canvas is a resource-heavy activity. But we're putting that aside. It's just like a single-use container in my busy day is way easier than using a glass reusable container, which actually you have to wash anyway because you do the dishes. But it's like we're both so strapped for time that if we could just like guilt-free get plastic containers and throw them out, that's what we do all the time. But then I don't feel good about that. I do think they reuse these sticks. I think they wash them. I hope they wash them and reuse them until they break. I mean, this fuel we're consuming is probably costly. But we'd use fuel to cook something at home. I'm not going raw food, especially not with all these herbs. It's delicious. My conundrum right now, or one of my conundrums, I live a conundrum-filled life. Clothing manufacture is actually horrible for the environment, and fast fashion is terrible. And there is like the moral stance is like you don't need things to make your life whole. But I have 2 sports bras that would be in elementary school if they were people. I think parts of my life would be better if I bought a new sports bra. And the problem isn't sports bras. It's a million women, or millions of women, or billions of women buying billions of sports bras. That's what the problem is. What's the number we could all ethically have? I don't know. That's my conundrum. Or as I said, one of my conundrums. Something I do feel morally superior about is that we eat a much more varied diet than we did in America. We eat like much more and different vegetables, and we mostly change with the season. And we definitely eat fruit seasonally. And we don't make a lot of meat, mostly because of laziness than morality, but I can still claim that as a win. And as I'm getting more into cooking and baking, I'm learning the local substitutions we can make. Like yesterday I made a peach cobbler, and the recipe called for cornstarch, which we didn't have, but I looked it up and you can use potato starch, which we do have, because that's something that people use here in their cooking. I mean, did I order vanilla extract online? Yes, I did. But did I order the Singaporean brand rather than the American brand? Also yes. Because I don't really know what else to do. I have to take it on faith that we're living in a society that's doing anything about the environment en masse, and actually we're not. I know for a fact that we're not. I guess I'm going to talk about voting again. The clothes thing is the one I return to a lot. It's clothes and plastics. And they're both big topics. And I don't like shopping anyway, so it's easy to not buy a lot of clothes. But it's still like I do try to repair our clothes if stuff gets ripped or has a hole. To my mother's consternation, I've always worn sweaters full of holes. I don't know if my motivation was environmental. It's partly environmental. Oh, I was gonna pick back up to putting aside litter. there's so many alarming studies now that show, like, in addition to a garbage patch the size of, I don't know, a small island, an actual island of plastic trash out in the ocean, there's microfibers and microplastics at the bottom of the ocean, and sea creatures are building their houses out of them. Which at first I was like, oh yay, that's so cool. It's great to see innovation at work. Except that the microplastics aren't as sturdy as like the sand and grit that they would normally use. So they build these houses out of plastic and then they collapse and kill the sea creatures. It's not immoral to exist, but I think that's where I'm coming to Howl's Moving Castle on this. It is immoral to exist without consideration of your impact on the world around. So how do I live? By using as much paper napkins as possible. To look at somebody else's life and say, well, you don't need that. But I mean, there's so many things in your own life. Not that I feel like I'm being very defensive. I'm defending against myself. These arguments are with myself. But I think we take a lot of look at what other people waste and what other people are doing wrong. And we don't really ever consider, like, we all have good excuses for needing to use 500 paper napkins at a time, but I walk to work, so it's fine. I mean, that's literally true. Not the it's fine part. I don't know if that's true. I like a good homesteader fantasy where I'm totally self-sufficient. I think that's what this plant growing thing is about. It's an effort to reclaim the food supply, because I don't hunt or gather. And I know for real, if like society stopped helping its members completely, I think I'd be pretty early out. But I did actually look up, like, what would it take to power a battery or to run electricity off of like a bike. It's too much biking. It's not realistic. But I like the idea of like harnessing kinetic energy that we're already using to make electricity. So scientists keep working on that. I think we can power like an LED light off of that currently. They all have to say. There's no thesis, just anxiety and guilt.